This is a real scene from the withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan. American troops took out their mortars and used up the remaining shells one by one. After that, they threw all the guns and ammunition into a pit, poured gasoline on them, and blew them all up. Then they smashed computers and burned classified paper documents. The U.S. Army chose to destroy everything rather than leave it to the Afghan National Army. After the cleanup, they approached Afghan officers and informed them of the impending withdrawal of U.S. forces. The Afghan National Army had been supported by the Americans for a long time, and it was only then that they realized they were just pawns in a much bigger game. The Afghan officers were heavy-hearted. They knew that once the U.S. withdrew, the Taliban would launch a massive counterattack. Without U.S. military support, they had no chance of fending them off. But the U.S. military explained that it was the decision of their superiors, and they had no say in the matter. Despite the grim situation, Afghan officers played music and held a farewell ceremony for the U.S. troops. Meanwhile, General Sadat, the supreme commander of the Afghan National Army, learned that the Taliban were closing in on the front line. He felt powerless and fearful. He didn't know how long he could survive without the protection of his American big brother. The next morning, U.S. troops lowered the flag at the base. 12 Navy SEALs then shook hands with General Sadat to say goodbye. Little did Sadat know at the time that just 3 months later, his government would be overthrown by the Taliban. As the last U.S. transport plane took off from Helmand Airport, the war in Afghanistan, which the U.S. launched in response to the September 11th terrorist attacks, officially ended. The war lasted nearly 20 years, cost $323.2 billion, claimed the lives of 2,200 U.S. servicemen, and caused more than 100,000 civilian casualties. Almost immediately after the withdrawal of U.S. forces, the Taliban launched an all-out offensive. The Afghan National Army was unable to hold its ground, and many of its soldiers surrendered without even resisting. Sadat knew that the war was lost, but he still went to the front line himself and tried to make a last stand. But the battlefield soon got out of control. Within 3 months of the U.S. withdrawal, the Taliban had attacked the capital, Kabul. The Afghan army was routed and fled in confusion. President Ashraf Ghani fled to another country, marking the end of the Afghan government.